ABC7 continues to follow the breaking news from Minnesota. What you're looking at are live pictures right now. One is on the ground on the right side with all the tear gas. On the left, you can see that is from earlier, and you can see more structures and businesses are being burned. We know the FBI is involved in the investigation of the officers that were involved in the death of the man who was on the ground in handcuffs, and an officer had his knee on his neck. And the man, Mr. Floyd, said he could not breathe. He said it a number of times, and then he died. And this has been the response all across the country.
And that was in D.C. less than 30 minutes ago as a fifth night of protest rages on across the country. People demanding justice for the death of George Floyd in Minneapolis, saying they are also demonstrating against systemic racism. Right now, there are curfews in effect for about a dozen U.S. cities because of these protests. Demonstrations happening in Atlanta, Los Angeles, Chicago, and right here in the nation's capital.
People jumped on the hoods of 3 U.S. Secret Service vehicles, smashing windows, flattening tires, plus spray painting anti-Trump and police rhetoric. Officers with plastic shields and wooden batons forced protesters back. All to keep a wider perimeter around the White House grounds.
Well, somebody help them.
Several protesters washed out their eyes.
Are you okay? Do you need a spray?
Seemingly from some sort of chemical that was fired into the crowd. Today's protest started around 2:30 beside the U.S. Capitol reflecting pool. The crowd, easily topping 1,000, spoke their minds without turning to vandalism. During a press conference this afternoon, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser stated violence is not the answer.
I call upon our city and our nation to exercise great restraint, even while the president tries to divide us.
This is an SUV. I believe it belongs to the media. What's a bit sobering is that we were parked on this block. And we moved the vehicle around 10:50 because things were getting out of control and we were concerned that something like this could happen.
We got a building that appears to be under construction on fire to the right, to my left, towards the White House. Things are getting worse and worse with each passing moment that goes by as far as this confrontation. You can see this fire right here. This looks pretty serious.
I tried to go in there to see real quick if there was a fire extinguisher. I called 911 and told them to get here now. This is, again, that professional office building. Sir, do you have any idea what happened here? I mean, presume an arson.
They just started vandalizing.
And you're a security guard at this building. What do you make of this, sir?
Chaos. I get the bigger purpose, like what's going on, but it's too much, man. It's too much.
Carl, kind of a dangerous scene playing out just behind us, unfortunately. We are trying to keep a safe distance, but this is the AFL-CIO building. I know that there's a lot of profanities on the graffiti, and we apologize for that, but you can see that protesters are inside this building. They have broken through several of the windows and doors.
How many times are you guys gonna beat us, kill us like we're not like you, like I'm not like her? We have the same organs, we have the same eyes, we have the same nose. We are one people. All we want is justice. We just want to wake up in the morning and not worry about getting killed. Every day, African Americans are killed in this country, and these police officers get away with it. And is that justice? Is that fair? Is that freedom? Is this the country that we live in? The country that we work for?
Every single American should be outraged by the murder of George Floyd. However, smashed windows and looting are becoming a bigger story than the broken systems that got us here.
I can hear a reporter coughing, so I'm imagining they deployed some sort of tear gas. They have these pepper bullets that they're shooting at people as well. Yeah, Tom, if you can hear us, please fill us in on what's going on out there.
Hey, Jonathan, sorry, a lot of tear gas in the air right here. I don't know what started it, to be honest, but you see all the police just moved up.
I am also taking swift and decisive action to protect our great capital, Washington, D.C. What happened in this city last night was a total disgrace. As we speak, I am dispatching thousands and thousands of heavily armed soldiers, military personnel, and law enforcement officers to stop the rioting, looting, vandalism, assaults, and the wanton destruction of property. We are putting everybody on warning. Our 7 o'clock curfew will be strictly enforced.
And with that, President Trump just declaring that there is going to be a much swifter action taken to clean up the streets, clear the streets of not necessarily the protesters, but some of the violence that we have seen afterwards with the looting and the arson and the destruction.
I am on the sidewalk of H Street, just north of Lafayette Square, which is just north of the White House. So essentially, these police you see right here, and they're advancing again. And now they're.
Gosh.
You see
That's
what's
a photographer.
going on now.
A member of the press.
Now there's just a lot of violence erupting. Ben, back up, back up. All right, I don't know. Tear gas everywhere. We're going to get off to the side here.
We understand President Trump now is on the move somewhere. Not sure where he is going, but let's keep an eye on that as he's walking out.
Yeah, so it appears that he is going to St. John's. And let me just say, this is a spontaneous move by the president. It appears, we saw members of the White House press corps. It appears that not even they knew what was going to happen, what was going to follow that press conference.
Let's listen in.
Hey, Bible.
What are your thoughts right now?
We have a great country. That's my thoughts.
And I'm not sure if this was a photo op or this was just a stroll. I mean, I'm not sure what was going on here. But if Tom Rousey can hear us and he's got his mic open, maybe we could just listen. We can just listen for a second. And, hold on.
We have the greatest country in the world. Thank you very much, everybody. We're going to keep it nice and safe.
We don't care about no curfew. We don't care about none of that. We don't care what they have to say. They kill us, nothing's done. People show with AR-15s, begging for a haircut, begging for stores to be open. But when we come out here and protest because a white man put his knee down on a black man and killed him in cold blood, and we come out here to protest that, this is what happens. That's why we out here. We're not going nowhere at all. We here. We here for as long as we can. We not running. We done. Tired of running.
Boiling over into now nightly events, protests often sparking riots, police departments strained. 24 states have called in the National Guard, and in the president's own city, Washington, D.C., his calls for law and order have meant little.
This is the reason that we have called in Atlanta and across this country for people to just take a step back, peacefully protest, and then please go home at 9 o'clock.
According to the Associated Press, the president berated state leaders on Monday in a call, saying most of you are weak. You have to arrest people, claiming they look like fools.
It is their responsibility to police their streets. They have the police power embedded in the Constitution. They have quite clearly, many of them, failed to do their job.
But across the country, the protests are growing in number and intensity. And as a result, more mayors, in hopes of quelling them, are instituting curfews too. And on top of obvious danger, there's a less visible one, but also of concern.
We're still in the middle of a pandemic. You who are out there peacefully protesting, again, if you're starting to get symptoms of COVID-19, please isolate.
And governors saying there has to be more to it than just rage.
It's not enough to come out and say, I'm angry, I'm frustrated. And you want what done? You need the answer.
But of course, here in Washington, D.C., which saw almost 100 arrests last night and plenty of damage, the mayor now changing the curfew, saying it will be 7 p.m. tonight as opposed to the 11 p.m. that they had last night, saying that people need to be part of the solution, not part of the destruction.
He made it to St. John's. You can see he held up a Bible, made brief remarks there, and then had these pictures taken with staff and administration members. This all followed a fire being set at this church just last night. The Episcopal Diocese of Washington couldn't believe it.
The president just used a Bible, the most sacred text of the Judeo-Christian tradition, and one of the churches of my diocese without permission. as a backdrop for a message antithetical to the teachings of Jesus and everything that our churches stand for. And to do so, as you just said, he sanctioned the use of tear gas by police officers in riot gear to clear the churchyard. I am outraged.
Not exactly the reaction he was thinking he was going to get. The fire was contained to a nursery in the parish hall, and no historical artifacts were damaged.
Begin with a breaking news alert.
It's 5 a.m. and breaking right now on Good Morning Washington. A standoff is ongoing in the district. Protesters boxed in by police took refuge inside a stranger's home. What we're hearing from inside this morning.
Around 8:30 or 9:30, we are in this curfew right now. Police corralled large groups of protesters using different tactics, and we're actually in front of a house. A man named Rahul, he let in protesters into his home. He tells me about 70 people are inside, and we have him and everyone who's inside on video chat right now. So we do want to talk and see what this experience is like. I hope that you guys at home are able to see this. But Rahul, just first talk to me. Why did you open your doors and let these protesters inside?
Yeah, Kristen, I just want to first say that the souls behind me are amazing. They have put up a fight in peaceful protest and civil disobedience. And I was outside on the stoop of my steps at around 8:30, and it was just peaceful gathering. The police had blocked everybody in, pinned them into the one-way street of Swan. Still remained pretty calm until about 8:45. I went downstairs to open up the back gate to let a couple people out because they were trapped in. And when I come out to the front, I heard screaming, some pepper spray. My eyes started burning, and I just flung open the door, and all these people started to come in.
At some point, the cops lined up with riot gear, with their shields, and they just started pushing and pepper spraying. I got pushed down. Somebody just picked me up, and we were swooped right into Rahul's house, and we've been here safely recovering. We're looking for peace. We're looking for justice. People were murdered this week, and we're out here protesting. We knew full well that we might be tear gas, and we still went on out there anyway because it matters. Black lives, it matters. Our visibility matters. Our voices matter.
Here, you guys. Come on,
You saw this moment happen live right here on ABC7 News. Remember this? Attacking a news crew that was just sitting up on the fence right there. They're from Australia, and they were also broadcasting live at the moment that happened. They were struck by U.S. Park police officers as they were trying to clear out Lafayette Park on orders from Attorney General William Barr. Now the country's prime minister wants an investigation. The reporter was hit with a police baton as she was running away, and her photojournalist was hit in the stomach with a shield. Not once were they asked, "You need to go." ABC7 spoke with that reporter, Amelia Brace, today.
All of a sudden, with no warning, there was rubber bullets being pelted into the crowd, and that line of police just surged forward at a speed that was kind of undescribable. There was no possibility of getting out of the way, and everyone who crossed paths with them was getting quite brutally attacked.
Now, both journalists were back at work today. ABC7 contacted U.S. Park Police about the assault. We have yet to receive a response from them.
Tonight here at ABC7, we want to begin an open conversation about this time for change in our country.
Can't necessarily change the hearts of every police officer in the police department, but you can change their actions and their behavior by strong leadership at the top.
What we're seeing now is years of frustration and pain. We reached a tipping point that I think, in all honesty, was helped by the COVID crisis.
What gets captured on those cell phone videos, what gets captured on body cameras, what gets captured on in-car cameras is the fulcrum with which we can change the notion that this is just another in a series of isolated events.
Students at the law school, one of the things that they are trained to understand, one of the things that they come to us understanding is that law has the power to transform, and that they have got to take that degree and take that skill and take that knowledge and ensure that it moves us in the right direction.
This is indeed the most difficult time I've seen in my lifetime, not to mention in over 30 years of ministry.
What do you say to people who may come to you and say they've kind of lost their way, they need a little help?
Prayer, reflection, trusting in God. That is something that is so important in those basics. And I think, as the doctors have said previously, the connectedness that we have over the technological web conferencing is very important.
An opportunity where the nation has been awoken in many respects by the cinematic lynching on television of George Floyd, where we saw this over and over again. And now is an opportunity for us to come together and to seek change.
We came here to the city of Alexandria for a conversation about the past, the present, and the future.
Today, my grandson graduated from high school. What is the world going to look like for him?
And as Earl Cook searches for the answer to that question, he finds himself looking back to his own high school years at T.C. Williams.
I was a rising junior.
In 1971, he was a member of TC's newly integrated football team.
I don't care if you like each other or not, but you will respect each other.
A team whose story was told in the film Remember the Titans.
I come to win.
And whose coaches and players won a state championship and brought their community together during a time of intense racial divide.
Growing up in this city, I was such a beneficiary of civil rights activists.
Earl then went on to become the city's first African-American police chief, a job he held for 7 years until his retirement in 2016.
I'm told by society to be proud you're the first black one, which is automatically opposing the thought that compared to what? To a white standard?
Black Lives Matter! So when he talks about racism and watches protests now happening nationwide over the death of George Floyd, Earl once again finds himself looking back.
Regrets because I was in a position to affect change. I attempted to affect change. But in hindsight, I wasn't bold enough. I wasn't nearly bold enough.
As for the future, he believes the work ahead will be difficult.
What you really need is reform and reset police departments. We have not progressed to the point where we've changed our institutions. They are exactly at the place they were when I was a teenager.
But Earl has faith in the next generation.
The young people, like my grandson, is the answer.
And perhaps one day they too will be remembered as Titans.
And that's what gives me hope.
Heather Graff, ABC7 News.
Right now, protesters are attempting to remove Confederate Army General Albert Pike's statue from Judiciary Square. Just moments ago, we saw them get a little bit of a movement there, but they've been trying now for about 30 minutes. Police are in the area. They're surrounding this area. This is actually right next to the police headquarters and the courthouse. Removing the statue, and there you have it. They just removed the statue. They just successfully removed Albert Pike's statue here at Judiciary Square on Juneteenth. So you can see the protesters surrounding the statue as it goes up in flames. What kind of satisfaction are you getting from this?
Satisfaction that pieces of history that shouldn't be around are no longer around, and they're coming down.
Like them. Violence is all they know. We know peace. Be peaceful. Because at the end of the day, I care about you and all of your lives.
The significance of this venue is unprecedented. You can't go anywhere else in the world and replicate this.
The nation's capital is a place where influence is peddled and change settled, typically within corridors of power.
We all are striving for the same thing. We just want equality.
But when the world witnessed an unspeakable death, a rising tide of outrage born from generations of racial injustice
I can't breathe. I can't breathe.
stormed America's streets to secure a seat at history's table.
We're seeing people that are pissed off, that they don't have jobs, that the American dream has failed them, that they aren't where they should be.
Just the callousness at which this man his life was brought to an end. It was shocking. I think it shocked everyone, into this conversation, into this reality. And now everyone can agree. Maybe there is a devaluation of black lives in this country, and we need to look at that.
This broad campaign for equality includes an explosion of expression on wood, glass, walls, and pavement, coursing through Washington, D.C., breathing new life and new meaning into how we see and solve injustice.
Artists, we have such a unique voice. We have the ability to move people through word and image.
This movement's roots were planted in Lafayette Square, steps from the White House.
History is something you're a part of. It's nothing you plan for.
Here, protest signs, drawn, scratched, and scribbled, line trees, poles, and fences. For Yolanda Wells, horror and beauty sit side by side.
Even though it's a sad time for us, look at this. It is beautiful. All this art is beautiful. And it's causing everyone to come together. Yeah, it's a select few who do not see what's happening and the meaning behind it. But for the ones that do, it's a beautiful thing.
Right now, I'm just touching some things up. Color just tells the story, and it invokes so much, emotion.
Sonia Jones is among several artists working with the renowned Paints Institute, creating world-class murals.
Nina Simone said it's the responsibility of artists to reflect the times, and so I'm just happy to be able to be out here and do that. I am doing a portrait of a young man.
They started in Chinatown and Gallery Place, turning riot-proof slabs of plywood protecting businesses.
I want to focus on skin tone and his expression
into something extraordinary.
Part of his shirt is going to have part of the Black Panthers Party logo. Another one is going to be a fist because that's a trademark that I'm doing.
This transformation of motifs from war-zone wood to a landscape of promise was the brainchild of the downtown D.C. Business Improvement District, the Paints Institute, and the property owner.
The common theme is unity, togetherness, solidarity, and let's move forward.
Oxford Properties General Manager Josh Turnbull witnessed the power of public art here and wanted more.
I've got a building over at 16th and I Street, right in the heart of Black Lives Matter Plaza, and we need to do this there. By the next morning, we had the artists over here, and here we are with now an outdoor art gallery.
This location where we are right now is 916th Street, and the street has been renamed Black Lives Matter Plaza.
Different shades of brown to reflect brown people, black people, so they can see themselves in a rainbow. We're painting history right here. My name is Moses Mozart Rivera, and we call this Brown Babes Are Magic.
Just trying to give it a little bit of life. Try to use the same tones in both hands to show that we are more equal than we are different. Together we rise. As artists, we want to be a part of change, and this is a critical time, and to not take part, I think, is irresponsible.
Everybody has a gift, everybody has a way that they can tap in to kind of bring about real change, and she's just trying to channel that inner energy to do that.
My name is Levi Robinson. This piece is called Black Lives Matter to a Medic.
When riot police cleared protesters on that now infamous afternoon, medics were stationed on this very spot, this very piece of plywood, their triage rundown.
Supply lists, first aid kits, dates and times of when protesters were marching. That's why a lot of the wood is still exposed in the piece. I didn't want to paint over that. I wanted to preserve it because I felt like it told their story. This is my way of marching,
Our final stop, the entire block of 14th and V Streets.
Yeah, I did.
where Denver terraced carefully amid an ongoing construction project, built with dozens of volunteers, an ode to Black lives lost to racial injustice and police brutality. More than 100 names, some familiar, others not, including Terrence's uncle Denver Smith, a college student gunned down during a peaceful protest at Southern University in 1972.
This wall is about information, it's about hope, but it's also about pain, and hopefully with acknowledging the pain, we can move towards some type of solution.
Hey Denver, can you give me some yellow?
It felt very heavy going down this mural, knowing that the police killed all these people and they're hired to protect us. Although some of the names were familiar, it's almost like the wall grabs you. After the wall touched me, I tried to leave the wall here versus taking the wall with me.
For some, it's hard to carry around a baggage of intolerance, filled with disappointment, rage, and loss. But this explosion of expression is about more than the injustices of yesterday. These murals, as they march through our nation's capital, remind us that we can move forward.
I think humans have evolved enough where we can look past something so trivial as race, color, to determine whether or not a person deserves to live.
I'm Jay Corbin.
You know, I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful. That's all we can be at this point is hopeful, right? I'm hopeful.
For ABC7 News.
Pro football in Washington will have a new name. What will it be? We still don't know.
2020, I think it's been the year of change. It's been the year of reckoning, and this was bound to happen.
Do you think this change is more about doing the right thing and a cultural shift within the NFL, or is this just about money?
I have to be candid. I think money pushed it over the finish line.
That's why, in part, there's so much confusion regarding this. At least for somebody like me, a historian, the polls, the logo that exists on the helmet, and then all these other Native Americans that have come out over the years saying that, anecdotally, that it's not offensive.
But it has proven, in fact, that using this racial slur does harm Native American children.
I'm sorry, just because it was fine 10 years ago, it was fine 20 years ago, it's not fine now.
Mike, you cover history, I lived it. I've lived through history. I'm a visual example how people make decisions on site based on the color of my skin.
This did not have to come down to a racial argument like this. I mean, all I was doing was making an observation.
It's not an argument, Mike.
About the origin
it's a fact
of the
of life.
Name.
Even in the civil rights movement, civil rights for all, there was still sexism.
Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton remembers the March on Washington well. As a young activist, she was in charge of organizing buses and trains to the march. Holmes was one of many women working behind the scenes to ensure the march was a success. 250,000 people filled the National Mall. Women marched. Women sang.
Oh, he's got everybody in his hands.
But look at the program for that historic day. Only one woman was allowed to speak.
When it got to the point of choosing speakers, each of the big six was chosen to speak, but not Dorothy Height.
The Big Six were all men. Dorothy Height, often called the godmother of the civil rights movement, an architect of the march and skilled speaker, denied, along with other instrumental women of the movement like Rosa Parks. They were only invited on stage for a tribute to Negro women, their voices muted. Mrs. Medgar Evers, or Myrlie Evers, missed her turn at the microphone due to traffic at the airport. Daisy Bates stepped in, the only female speaker on that historic day. Bates led school integration efforts in Arkansas. She organized the Little Rock Nine.
That Black women are still pushing these agendas forward. They're still being the ones that are, again, always inclusive of others. It's not just about Black women. When Black women win, we all win.
Associate Director in the School of Media and Public Affairs at George Washington University, Dr. Imani Cheers, plans to attend the Commitment March Friday. Dr. Cheers says Black female leaders like the founders of Black Lives Matter stand on the shoulders of the Black women who came before them,
fighting for racial and gender equality. Say his name! Their voices pushing the civil rights fight forward.
We are in 2020, where a movement like Black Lives Matter, even all the way to our the current Democratic presidential vice president pick, Senator Kamala Harris, that we're seeing that Black women are leading. They've always been leading, but now it's just visible.
So we're currently on Richmond Highway, right in the wonderful Mount Vernon community. When COVID hit, we thought food, we thought shelter, but there's so much underneath all of that. And something as simple as having clean clothes is so important. This is a new business on Route 1 who has realized that there's a need here in this community. And so they've teamed up with Young Highways to offer free washing and drying for the community.
You have 3 loads, okay, that you can wash for color in the big machine, and then you can wash 2 loads of whites in the smaller machine, okay?
When I got the phone call, I was like, yes, because we need this. It's really hard to manage with this pandemic. It's so different. It feels like a different world. Phew. Whoa, you wouldn't believe it. Sometimes I have to laugh to keep from crying, okay? You know, when your income is cut short by the pandemic, and you have to wash your clothes, you have to pay your rent, you know, you have to pay your bills. Some of my bills are behind, but, you know, I keep moving.
Everybody gather around Young Highway Fitness. Let's go. Let's go, let's go, let's go.
We're gonna do go-go Zumba with the kids. We have snacks and drinks to supply for the families while they're waiting for their clothes to wash and dry. We understand what you're going through. We're from the Route 1 corridor, and we just want to give back. And we're here from you, and we're not going anywhere. We're not going to just give you a free laundry wash and say, okay, take care. No. How else can we help support your family? How else can we help support you to be a better parent, to give your child more opportunities?
We need to help people feel human, feel like we care. Someone cares. We care. And so we're showing that by doing something that no one else is doing on Route 1. Across the highway from people who have so much money, and on the other side of the highway are people who are unemployed, seeing higher COVID rates than ever, need job assistance, need rental assistance, need food assistance, and it's just ridiculous. There were times when I was on welfare. There was times I was living in my grandmother's basement because we didn't have anywhere to go. No matter how life may take you into better places, don't forget the people that are in the situations that you came out of. And so that's my driving force. And so we're on our way to get Joseph so that he can wash the clothes of the family. This family has been waiting to get housing, and unfortunately, because the family is so large, that they have just had such a difficulty to find housing big enough for their entire family. And so they are now living out of a hotel.
But as you can see, it's hectic, but I'm just making the best of it, you know what I'm saying? That's all I can do.
They lose their jobs. Their daughter gets shot. They get displaced. They basically got evicted. So here they are trying to figure out how to persevere in the midst of one thing after another after another.
Just to feel loved by somebody else that's not even in our family, it's amazing.
Clean clothes ain't nothing like clean clothes, man. You know what I'm saying? When you get the opportunity to wash some clothes, I ain't not going to say no. You know, I got a huge family that I'm providing for, so Miss Yolanda came in my life, and there's more blessings to come, man.
Don't nobody want to put on the same dirty clothes. That means I'm still living in yesterday's sorrow.
Yeah.
I'm trying to live in today's love.
When you have fresh clothes, they might be old, but they clean. Come on, man, you good. It's cleansing. It's called a cleanse. I've been washing clothes for years, man. My mother taught me well, man.
But it just means a lot for me to be able to help someone breathe. This situation and this pandemic can be so suffocating, and one thing after another, and you could just feel so overwhelmed. To me, it means a lot that I just get to allow people to put a smile on their face, even if temporarily, because someone cared enough and loved on them enough to say, I see you, and I'm here to help you. There's a reason to keep going. There's a reason to not give up.